Great. Well, welcome everybody. And tonight promises to be a very enlightening evening for all of us. As this very esteemed group of folks are going to talk about the transformative subject of healthcare technology and empowering healthcare workers. So we are so pleased to have you join us in this engaging discussion and collaboration, which we do events with Caldwell and MIT Sandbox here at the cutting edge of healthcare innovation at MIT's innovation headquarters, which is this building right in the edge of Kendall Square, which is probably the most healthcare biopharma innovative, square mile in the whole world. So welcome. I'm Vita Bilkis. I run the MIT DIVE program, which stands for Dive into Healthcare Innovation and Venture Exploration. It's a summer program for students interested in engaging with and creating solutions for healthcare industry challenges. We partner with healthcare organizations who provide subject matter expertise and resources to student teams. This year, our tracks include Takeda Biopharma, Women's Health, Muscle Health and Pliability, and Long COVID Lyme. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about MIT DIVE or MIT Sandbox after the event. Tonight promises to bring a thought-provoking conversation about the essential ingredients for entrepreneurs and startups in the biotech industry to achieve long-term success. We are honored to have two exceptionally accomplished experts in the field presenting tonight, and in just a moment, they will each introduce themselves as they begin their fireside chat. But first, I would really like to quickly extend a warm welcome and really express our gratitude to Caldwell and to you, Katie, for making this evening possible. So Katherine Rubino is the partner and director of the Life Sciences Practice Group at Caldwell. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in representing life science companies and integrating technology solutions with healthcare settings. Katie has significant experience helping high-growth pharma biotech companies to develop and monetize intellectual property strategies worldwide to help them compete in the global economy. Her insights into the practical impacts of these innovations and technologies is unparalleled. And we have really gotten to know Katie very well at MIT Sandbox, as she serves as one of our esteemed experts for our startup teams. And joining Katie is Allan Njoroge, founder and CEO of Actriv Healthcare, a national workforce solutions company that has been listed on the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies in the US for 3 years in a row, ranking at number 40 in 2021. Allan is a visionary whose company is reshaping how healthcare professionals connect with facilities. He firmly believes in building a supportive community of healthcare professionals who are not only committed to their patients, but also each other and to the ongoing improvement of healthcare experiences. So truly, truly grateful and excited to have our conversation tonight. And with that, I'd like to hand the mic over to Katie.
Oh, thank you so much.
You are Mike.
Yes, and thank you. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited for tonight's talk, and we love to be able to partner with organizations such as the MIT Sandbox and DIVE that really help to give back and educate the entrepreneur community. And I can't think of a better entrepreneur to really share a lot of insights on his own story than Allan. So Allan, why don't you just tell us a bit about yourself? I think what pops out most impressive in my mind about you is that today marks 7 years since you started Actriv Healthcare. It's been on the Inc. 5000 list for 3 consecutive years, which is almost impossible to match that. And you're a serial entrepreneur. This is your 13th startup. So just tell us a bit about your story.
Thank you, Katherine, and thanks to MIT for having me over, and thanks for everybody that took their time to be here. My story is very interesting. As most of you can tell, my last name is from Kenya. I was born and raised in Kenya, and I grew up in a small town called Eldoret, and the reason why I'm sharing that is because that's the first place that encountered this thing called the internet for the first time in my life. And I knew that the internet was something that would change the world, but more so, it's something that I wanted to use to change my world. I immigrated to the United States back in 2007, and my first career coming here was a defense contractor. Spent some time in Iraq and Afghanistan before I ventured into the world of building companies. I'm a major in computer science. That's my background. It's very far from healthcare. And the way I ended up in healthcare was interesting because I was on the other side of receiving the patient care as a patient. And I learned some of the challenges that were affecting healthcare firsthand from the person that was taking care of me. And what she had been through that particular day, because she had been working for quite a long time, and she was able to share with me the experience of being a registered nurse in the United States. That certain days are longer than others, and that certain days you get to work longer because there's nobody to replace you. And I found that very interesting, and that was the beginning of my journey as a healthcare entrepreneur. So that was when I first got a glimpse of what's happening in healthcare, and I wanted to start doing something there. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And if you could have told me what I've experienced now back then, I probably wouldn't have done it. How many here want to start companies?
Or how many maybe already have a company they're working on?
Awesome. It's been a rewarding journey. However, back then, if I knew the challenges that I would have encountered, that probably would have scared me. But the good thing about being an entrepreneur is you go into it because you want to solve a problem. And the thing is, you ask yourself, how hard could it be? And you don't think it will be until you're fully in it. And then it becomes this amazing journey that brings you to making a huge impact in people's lives. So that's a little bit of my background.
Okay, thank you for that. What about, can you tell us a little bit about the background of starting Actriv? I think that's a really interesting story, how that first blossomed for you.
So, Actriv. I started Actriv in 2017, today, 7 years ago. And I started it as a company called Actriv Healthcare Staffing. This was after my experience being in a healthcare system. But prior to that, I had worked on a startup called Eldo Hire, which was an on-demand blue-collar application that connected blue-collar employees with blue-collar opportunities. And at the time when we were conceiving that idea, we were so far ahead of ourselves. It was ridiculous for anybody to even believe that it was possible, because Uber had just come up with this geofencing technology that you could just magically order a vehicle and it will show up. So as an inspiration, we thought, well, we could be an Uber for something, because at the time there was an Uber for literally everything. And so blue collar opportunities was our thing. But we underestimated what it took to actually get such a product to market and get users to use it. And we were so broad at the time because we had literally every service on the application that you could think of. So we never even niched down to anything specific. So it became very hard for that application to take off. So it was a startup that didn't do so well. I try not to consider it a failure, because the previous startups that I built actually taught me everything that I needed to learn about building the company that I'm building today. Because every single setback or every single application that never worked, or any company that we were not able to make something out of, actually taught me everything I needed to learn about building the company that we're building today. And so after my experience in the hospital, I decided I wanted to learn more about healthcare. And one of the shocking things that made me think that I should actually really do it was the shocking statistic that the median age of nurses in America, at the time it was 52. It's reduced, but you can think about that for a second. Like the median age being 52, we are going to have some serious problems in a few years. And not to mention that the predictions for the amount of registered nurses we need in the next 6 years from today is over 1 million more nurses. And that doesn't account for the fact that we don't know how the world is going to pivot. 2020 also created a lot of challenges. So to me, there was a need. This was pre-pandemic, but I felt the need to do something different in that space. Like there was a call to action that I needed to actually jump in and figure out how do we solve this nursing shortage crisis and how is it being solved. So I started by a company called Action Healthcare Staffing. I needed just something generic, very easy to understand, because I wanted to understand how is it done and how could we do it differently. And when we started, we knew that there were a few things that had to be true. We had to figure out how to execute whatever we wanted to do much faster than anybody else. And we didn't have the money to build it. We had not raised any VC dollars, and nobody would invest in a company that didn't have any traction or a team or anything. So it was a question of, is there a way that we can get to revenue much faster with tools that are readily available off the shelf? And I started with a tool called Google Voice. It's kind of evolved to Hangout or something like that nowadays. But Google Voice would enable us to send text messages to people. So we would craft a text message and then bundle it up, send it as a text to a registered nurse or a caregiver. And we didn't give them multiple options. It was just like, these are the options we have for you, just say yes or no. And we were able to get much faster responses because we eliminated the idea of choice. And we made it easy for people to just make a quick decision. And that was the genesis of our fast, rapid growth. Fast forward a few months later, we got shut down by Google because it was a free service. So we had to figure out how to find a premium. But we did find other services, and SMS was the fastest way for us to actually deliver the services. We introduced the application back in 2019. But in between, we tried to find anything that was off the shelf that we didn't have to build. Because all my previous startups I actually built. Because being an engineer, the first place you go to is, I want to build. I want to sit behind a laptop and write the code and build something. And then you get sucked up in what you're building and completely forget that you're running a business. So my frame of thinking at the time was, I'm going to get to profitability before I actually think about building a product. And it's something that I would recommend to any person that wants to start building a business. Don't go out and try to build a tool that will do the job. Find a tool that can actually do that job and validate your thesis. And if you're right, then you know what you need to build. So don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out, what am I supposed to, like, how much time should I be spending on the product itself before you can sell? Unless it's a super unique product that gives you an advantage, then yes. But if you can find something that helps you validate the initial pieces, then take that route. And that's the route we took before we started developing.
That's incredible. Now, I guess a follow-up question to that, you've grown the company. It's been on the Inc. list for 3 years in a row. You even were listed number 40 as one of the 40th top fastest growing company in the US. As an entrepreneur, you started your first business, entrepreneurial venture, when you were 17. What advice do you have to other founders in the room, or even to your younger self, about being an entrepreneur and being so incredibly successful at what you're doing?
So it's a very good question. The advice I'll probably give anybody, and probably the younger version of myself, is try to understand what your customers need before you actually start selling what you think they want. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we accomplished a great deal of success at a very early stage based on what we thought our customers needed. But upon asking our customers a lot of questions, we realized that we missed out so many opportunities to make a huge impact on the customer's life if we actually spend a lot of time asking the right questions. And one of them, the questions that I recommend every entrepreneur to ask any potential client or any of the clients that you serve is like, how do you help them either one, increase their revenue, or two, become more efficient? If you can answer those two questions, then you will actually be able to build something very remarkable and generate quite a lot of money doing that. And those are questions that initially we should have spent time asking, but we didn't. Even though the track record shows that we were able to actually grow very, very fast, which that growth was as a result of being very efficient and very focused on what we were doing. We only had very limited focus in the company, and we tried not to have so many projects going on at the same time. So it was purely, we are going to focus on growth and efficiency, and that's it. We're not going to do anything else. And we did that very, very well, but we missed out the opportunity to go back and talk to our customers, which fast forward now that we've spent a lot of time doing that, it has helped us understand what we should actually be building and which problems we should be solving for our customer.
So kind of figuring out what's the value add for the customer.
Yes.
Why they should hire you or work with you.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about healthcare, technology advancements in healthcare. And I know we've been talking the past few days about how the healthcare industry is very slow to adopt new technological advancements compared to some other industries. What would you say right now are some of the most promising technological advancements in healthcare that you're seeing?
AI is influencing a lot of industries today, and it's also making a huge impact in healthcare. And we're starting to see the application of healthcare in so many domains, whether it's in the field of researching the next generation drug or efficiency in patients' intake or like getting payments much faster, efficiency in appointments. So we're seeing AI driving a huge deal in healthcare, and it will be a big part of healthcare as we move forward. It's one of the things that we also exploring in our organization, how that could have an impact in workforce management, because that's an area where healthcare is lacking a lot, and that's one area where I see AI, machine learning, big data. We see a lot of that affecting positive change in that space. So
I'd say so too. I think, especially, do you think too that COVID, kind of the pandemic, limited resources also kind of spurred on innovation in healthcare, where hospitals had to innovate very quickly, deal with all these drug shortages, staffing shortages, and kind of really scramble to fill in a lot of the gaps that were existing there too? Do you think that kind of spurred on some of the innovation in healthcare?
yes. So COVID was a huge accelerator for healthcare's innovation. If you look at something like telehealth, it was not a thing that would have been easily adopted if it was not for COVID. a lot of people started looking at the possibility of how could we leverage technology beyond how we've leveraged it to accomplish the same outcomes. And if it was not for COVID, there wouldn't have been a need to accelerate the adoption of technology. And you look at that even in other places like healthcare workforce management, which is the space that we are in. Our services became validated more towards when COVID was a reality. So what Actriv does, for most of you that don't know much about what we do is we partner with healthcare facilities, and then we try to find local resources in terms of nurses or caregivers or any clinical resources, and we try to match them in real time. And so it could be either just on time request where there was a fluctuation in census and you need someone to come in and help take care of the patient. So they can leverage our platform, go into the platform, make a demand for whatever they need, and that's dispatched out in real time. And someone that is local to your area can pick up the shift and go to work. So we saw previously we had to spend a lot of time educating our clients on the possibilities of what such technology could do. However, in 2020, the adoption of such technology became very, very easy. We didn't have to do a lot of the selling because now the clients understood that there's a need for me to get someone right now, or there's a need for me to have assurance that someone is going to be there in the next 3 to 4 weeks that is not part of my employee pool. So my patients will be taken care of regardless. So that's one of the areas we were able to see like quick adoption in terms of technology. And there were so many other areas too that COVID helped accelerate that. And if it wasn't for such a pandemic, maybe we'll still be about 5 years behind. But COVID was able to accelerate tech adoption by probably a good 3-4 years out. So,
And would you say too, do you think the regulatory rules that were relaxed during COVID, those have kind of been carried forward? So that's also helped with a lot of innovation in this space too, because like you said, telemedicine, you used to doctors couldn't practice that outside the state they were licensed in. Now it's much more free flowing. They can, practice anywhere in the US through it. Do you think that's also helped spur on a lot of innovation too?
I think with COVID, there was a need to ask the same question differently. And I think the legislations that were previously passed were based on the times. And with COVID, there was the legislators started asking the right questions. Could we accomplish better outcomes if we just went back to rethink what we have thought to be true for so long? And that's one of those things that were able to spark some of the differences. And the conversation shifted towards being forward thinking and creating a demand that we need to create a world where we actually leverage technology to accelerate things. And that was a huge driver for that.
I think that's a great point. And kind of given the rapid pace of this innovation, how can healthcare providers stay agile and adaptable to leverage new technologies? I think it's tough because sometimes healthcare providers, they want to see 20 randomized control trials to know, okay, this software is going to actually give me a better patient outcome, or I want to see all this data. But it seems like there's so many tools that if it was adopted and put into their hands, it could make the delivery of healthcare better, more efficient, higher quality. Any ideas on how providers can kind of leverage technology?
Yes. If you think about healthcare, it's taken us a very long time to adapt and think of technology differently. When I started, there was fax machines being used. And up to today, if you go to certain doctors' offices, you're going to find a fax machine. And there's a lot of people probably in this room who wouldn't even know how to work one. I don't know how to work one. So, but it's one of the technological advancement that was part of healthcare for a very long time. So there's a need for healthcare leaders to start being open-minded about the possibilities of what tech could do.
Mm-hmm.
We are in an era where generative AI can provide meaningful solutions if you use it, and it'll be able to give you accelerate the productivity that you would have if you could use it. I think if you think about something like AI, you are going to lose your job to someone that is using AI if you're not using AI. And that's the world that we're headed into. So healthcare has to rethink how to adapt to such technology. How do we leverage the data we have? We have vast amount of data that we don't ever use to do much with. It's just, it will sit in a screen somewhere where they will use it to probably project budgets, and that's it. But we are not leveraging big data accordingly. We are not leveraging machine learning models accordingly. So it's a question of really the leadership starting to pivot their way of thinking towards how can we leverage technology to create better patient care outcomes. So think in terms of like today, workforce management, and it's a topic that I'm very vast with because it's a space that I'm in. There are so many institutions that use Excel spreadsheets. And there's no way to do such complex tasks as resource planning on a spreadsheet and not have errors or be efficient. And if you think about just the use of such archaic tools, it leaves out so many meaningful data points. So like you're not accounting for the difference in the care required per patient, because an Excel spreadsheet is not going to account for that. So you'll have to manually input that data, and it might not be even accurate. So an AI could perform those tasks much, much better than a human could. And so there is a need right now more than ever before for us to start thinking, how do we bring the right type of innovation in healthcare that could actually accelerate efficiency in the way healthcare is delivered?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a conversation that needs to happen around a mindset shift towards tech adoption. But I'm very optimistic because if you think about industries that do not use a lot of technology actually end up picking up technologies much faster than industries that actually use technology. So if you think about healthcare, telehealth has been very, very well received. And it actually worked much better than trying to introduce video communication back in 2020 for some of the companies. It was very difficult because companies that had not used Zoom or Teams to do video conferencing, it was a hard thing for them to adapt. But healthcare industry in general was able to move to telehealth very, very fast and adapt to that technology faster than most industries would have adapted to it.
Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of it is kind of framing up the culture at the institution around these technological tools and getting kind of buy-in and people on board that these are tools that are going to maybe increase patient safety, help you do your job faster. They're not going to replace you, but they're going to help accelerate your efficiency and deliver better quality care too.
Yeah, I think it's a conversational question. There's a lot of conversation that healthcare leaders and people in healthcare need to be talking about, and it needs to be an ongoing conversation because every one of those healthcare workers, they use technology outside of those institutions. They have Facebook, Instagram, or any other technology that makes their life 10 times easier. So it's just a question of actually painting the same picture in context to their day-to-day work and highlighting what does that mean to the patient and the impact that we could actually make by rethinking how we approach technology. And those people actually could be the ones that innovate and create the next generation of tools that make their lives better and the other clinicians that are going to come after them better.
Right. When they're working in the tech day in and day out, in the job, they know kind of what might be good tech that would help them with their challenges every day.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about now innovation at Actriv Healthcare. So what are kind of some of the most pressing problems and challenges you're looking to address in the healthcare technology sector?
It's a very good question. So there are two topics that actually we focus mostly on. One is patient care delivery, and the second part is on how do we empower the team of individuals delivering care to do that at the top of their license. How do we create efficiencies to make sure that they enjoy what it is that they do best? And so if you think about one of the challenges with contingent talent management in the past was you sign up to be a third-party employee to go to a facility and you never get any of the benefits. So you're more like a 1099 employee. What we wanted to do at Actriv was find a way to make sure that the world we create doesn't compromise any of that. So we wanted all the healthcare professionals at Actriv to receive all the benefits they'll receive working at any healthcare institution. You know, they'll get major medical, dental, vision, 401k, get sick time and PTO. We wanted that. What we wanted to do was make sure that they had the same benefits that they would get working for any employer, but have the twist of freedom and flexibility and stability to go anywhere. So they had a choice to pick a location that they wanted to go make an impact on. And so for us, innovation and the impact we wanted to drive was in those two areas. How do we make sure that the people delivering care love what it is that they do and that they enjoy doing that, because it's a lifestyle more than it is a job. And on the other token, we wanted them to make a huge impact on the patients when they got in contact with the patient. And for us as a company, everything is centered around the patient being on top of the pyramid and not innovation or even the healthcare professions. So we look at the healthcare professions as the next layer, or the healthcare facility as the next layer on the pyramid. But on top of the pyramid is the patient. And every innovation that we are working on at Actriv is centered around patient care and how do we help these organizations deliver the best patient care humanly possible. And so we've been able to create solutions around that. Actriv being one of the flagship products that we created was to enable healthcare facilities deliver better patient care by aggregating local resources and making them available to them, while solving another problem on the other hand, where nurses were able to just have this lifestyle where they could go take their kids to a soccer game in the evening, go to work. Or you could visit a friend in Boston, and if you have a compact state license, you can still practice while your friend is working, and you get to earn extra money. So we wanted to rethink the way work is done and kind of reimagine the future of work, and even the ownership of what most institutions call the ownership of an employee. We wanted to get away from that, where you didn't have to be part of any institution, but you could be part of every institution and still get the same benefits that they will offer and also practice at the top of your license. So that was one of the areas, and it took us a long time, because solving for something like how do you do sick pay in a complex world where someone gets to pick and choose when they want to work. And so you could fall sick on a day you're scheduled to work, and we have to pay you in order to comply with some of the laws. So it was very interesting for us to try to figure out these complex challenges, even doing benefits in a world where you get to decide when you want to work. So to be able to be eligible, you have to work for 30 hours. So how do you make sure that when they stop working for whatever reason, they still get those benefits? And when you get to a certain threshold, that you also become eligible for benefits. So there was quite a few challenges that we had to figure out, and that was one of them. And I can say I'm proud of my team because we were able to solve those problems and create a completely different way for contingent workers to earn a living and do their best work. And then in terms of the other area that we've been working on the patient care side, we've been trying to understand what does it take to provide the best patient care. Do we understand the resource requirement and the resource planning that goes into that? And that's the next problem that Actriv is trying to solve, being able to understand the patient from a higher level and being able to determine what would it take to take good care of those patients so that they receive the best patient care humanly possible. And we are looking at leveraging things such as AI, or building models that could help us predict. We are collecting so much data so that we can actually create a better, more efficient workforce management tool that can help healthcare facilities do what they do best. And so those are the things that we are currently working on at Actriv. There's a lot of very exciting innovation happening there for those of you that want to pursue a career in healthcare. We are actually pioneering some breakthrough things in healthcare. We've done that in the space of workforce management, and I can gladly say that we've created a new world where clinicians are much happier, and they're able to go anywhere and practice at the top of their license and not compromise on benefits. So that was a major breakthrough for us. And we have quite a lot of interesting things that we are working on that would actually push the healthcare industry a few milestones ahead.
Mm-hmm. I think the feature with the portability of the job flexibility you've created, that's just astonishing, because it's, they can go anywhere, work anywhere, and just plug right in and work when they want to.
Yep. And that's what most people are looking for in employment. Think about what made Uber very successful is not the fact that you could just ask for a ride and it shows up, but there had to be a need for the driver had to be satisfied, for the driver to decide, I want to be on the road. And that was just that element of freedom and flexibility. The one thing that every human being wants is to be free and to be in control. And if you can be able to provide a service that gives the end user control, you're going to win, because that's ultimately everything that people are looking for, and it comes at a premium. But if you're able to do that and allow people to be themselves, do whatever it is that they love to do, be anywhere they want to be, and not lose out on life, not lose out on their earnings, then it's a win-win situation for the people, the stakeholders involved in whatever you're building.
Mm-hmm. So with all this innovation going on at Actriv, how are you collaborating with other partners within the healthcare tech space, would you say?
We at Actriv, we have a very different approach towards innovation and collaboration. And what I believe will be the future of the way tech is built, or the way innovation is built, it will be very collaborative. It will be, nobody would get to own it all. You won't have monopoly on any particular thing. As you can see today, there's a lot of technology that is being developed where developers are allowed to actually build on whatever application is out there, and they can become creative and practically build anything. That's why APIs now become very, very, very common. At Actriv, we want to collaborate with anybody that is in data science, machine learning, AI, anybody that is working in the context of workforce management. We want to collaborate and partner with those individuals. Anything that can be able to bring so much value to a workforce, we want that. We want to collaborate with people that are working on such innovations, and we want to be able to give them the ability to leverage our platform to do more. And so that's how we are approaching technology. And in a year from now, we'll be opening up a lot of doors and creating a lot of possibilities for people to actually interact with the data that we have and actually get to build things that could impact the clinician population or the healthcare facilities on our platform. So that's a world that we are looking at, and we want to make it possible.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Would you say too, maybe too, you would even be interested to collaborating with maybe startups, maybe some even in the room right now, who are maybe working on some of these very challenging, complex problems that you're focused on?
Yes, and not only are we just collaborating, but we are also investing in companies that are actually working towards solving the nursing shortage crisis or the efficiency in workforce management in any space, because that could also practically be applied in healthcare. So we are looking for startups that are in those working in this particular domain, trying to solve these problems, and we want to collaborate with them. There's quite a lot of things that we've learned over the last couple of years being in business that we can be able to help extend and share. And there are problems that we can't solve. Mm-hmm. The biggest dilemma about building technology or innovating is that you can't build it all at the same time.
Right.
But there is a need for us to try to accelerate how fast we solve these healthcare challenges. And we have to do that very, very fast. It's not a question of do we have time? I think COVID has shown us how unprepared we are when it comes to our state of healthcare. And if that was to happen again, we haven't pivoted so much, and we haven't even innovated so much to prepare for such. We'll probably be working off the backbone of what COVID offered us, but not anything exponentially new. So there is a need for us to accelerate that, and we want to be able to help that, because at Actriv, our mission is not just to help healthcare facilities meet their patient care goals, but we want to also empower other people to do the same, to come in and join onto the same mission, because it's a human-centric mission more than it is an organization-based. And I tell most of our employees, we are not a company with a mission, we are a mission with a company. So it's not just, it's a calling for us. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to try to do something in this space, and we have to do it very, very fast. Because if you think about all of us here, we are not exempt from being sick. It's a path that we are going to take at some point in time in our lives, whether it's ourselves today or someone that is near and dear to us, or someone we know. So it's imperative that we understand that healthcare is going to affect us all. And that's, to me, joining healthcare is because I was on the other side of receiving the patient care, and I felt the need to do something. And so there is a need for a lot more people to get involved in working to solve the healthcare challenges. If you think just in terms of the nursing shortage crisis, it's a crisis. Nursing and caregiver shortage. Read up on that. It's very, very shocking. In a few years from now, we need over 1 million more nurses in the workforce to even make this workforce sustainable. And we are going to be visiting the same healthcare systems that if we don't do something to innovate and create, most of those units are not going to be open for long, because I've seen rural communities shutting down entire hospitals because they can't find nurses to take care of those patients. And part of solving that problem is creating efficient workforce management solutions, because that could help retain the workforce that we have. Because nursing is extremely difficult. If you read about burnout in healthcare, it's one of the biggest crises. More nurses are committing suicides than anything else. And so mental health is a big deal. Even though you might not directly get to work on a product that has an impact on the patient, but there are so many unexplored areas in terms of mental health. It's a critical topic that goes beyond healthcare, but it's something that we need. So there's definitely a call to all of us, especially the people in this room, because we are innovators. That's what we do. We build things, we solve problems, and it's important that we use those gifts to actually push humanity forward.
Mm-hmm. And I think that leads me into my next question for you, because you're very passionate about paying it forward, you mentoring, kind of giving back to the entrepreneurial community. Can you maybe just touch a little bit on the work you do to kind of help other growing entrepreneurs and support the entrepreneurial mission?
Yes. As an entrepreneur, when I started, I cannot say I'm self-made. I'm not. I was mentored and guided by people that came before me that made the mistakes that I was about to make, and they walked me away from them. So I had people that held my hand and showed me the way forward, what to do and what not to do. And I like to pay that forward. So every year, despite time constraints, I make time to mentor young entrepreneurs that are starting out in different stages of their companies. And not only do I just provide mentorship, but I also provide investments in things that I believe are going to change humanity for the better. My thesis is very simple on how I choose companies that I want to invest in. Do they have a broader impact on humanity? And if the answer is yes, then that's the first consideration. And then the second part is, how easy is it to execute? And could this be done within a very short time to actually see meaningful results? And if it checks that criteria, then I would make an investment in such companies, and also provide guidance and mentorship along the way to those entrepreneurs. I also work with a lot of minority entrepreneurs, being one, and having gone through the challenges of building a business as a minority entrepreneur. I try to help those in a similar situation as well, to understand how to navigate the complex world of building businesses, and also just overcome the mental hurdles that we all have as either minorities. There's the narratives that as a minority you tell yourself. Just the fact that the word says minority, you think you are one when you're not. And you actually are a majority if you choose to view yourself as such. And so just helping entrepreneurs pivot the way of thinking and adapt a very different mindset towards themselves and the problems they're solving is something that I take so much pride and joy in doing.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fantastic. And we've talked a lot too about just mindset, how mindset is so important, especially as an entrepreneur, and just your lens at looking at the challenges you face every day too.
It's true. If you think about mindset is one thing that most people don't spend a lot of time trying to shift. At a very early age, I learned that everything that I thought I knew about life was wrong. And that was the beginning of my learning experience. And I think if you take on life with that mindset, you actually get to learn so much, because everything you think you know about life has gotten you to where you are today. But everything you don't know could take you to a very different place. So it's a question of trying to learn what you don't know. That's one thing I've learned about mindset. The second thing is, as an entrepreneur, there are days, every day could be a bad day. Because your job as an entrepreneur is to just put out fires and solve problems. That's all you do all day. And if you look at that from the lens that it's so painful, then your life becomes nothing but pain. So you can look at a day in two ways: that it's a good day or it's a bad day. And all of them are relative. If you choose to see the good in that particular day, then the day just turns out to blossom. And if you choose to see the bad in a day, then that's what you get to see. And that's just life. And it's a very important mindset to have, and know how to really pivot your mindset as an entrepreneur, because you will have days when your business sucks. When you're not making money, you're gonna have those days, and you're gonna hate why you got in it, and you can't just quit, because you're so far deep into that world that that's not even an option. So you have to go back home and figure out, how do I get my mindset right so that I can go back tomorrow and face on the day. So it's very important to have the right frame of mind and learn how to shift your mindset if you are going to try to become an entrepreneur. And not just an entrepreneur, it's practical to our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So a final question here before we open it up to any questions from the audience. Kind of in 10 years, where do you see yourself? Where do you see Actriv? What are the sorts of maybe challenges you're facing? What problems will you be solving? What does the future hold?
Question on the future. So what I see us solving, which this might not be true today, because things are changing so fast, but we will still be trying to answer the question of trying to answer the nursing shortage crisis. That's one of the problems that we'll probably spend quite a lot of time. But I believe that in 10 years from today, we'll be looking at that from a global standpoint more than a national or state standpoint. There's also the world where we believe innovation could actually streamline a lot of the efficiency in patient care delivery, and not just patient care delivery, but also the people delivering the work. And what we want to do is make sure that in 10, not even in 10, probably 5 years, we create solutions that make it very exciting to be in healthcare. It's very, very important, considering that there are more people that are leaving healthcare than they're joining. It's a very concerning thing. So our goal is to try to make healthcare as exciting as it can be for the people that are providing care, and create a completely different world for them, an amazing way of life, so that they can do their best work. So there's quite a lot of innovative things within our pipeline that we know if we did those things, we could actually make the clinician experience 10 times better than it has been. We can keep more clinicians in the workforce excited about practicing patient care delivery. So that's one of the most critical elements. And then we're also thinking about pioneering a lot of breakthrough technologies that could help make sure that when it comes to patient care delivery, it's more efficient. It's data driven. And we can make decisions around patient care delivery based on real facts and numbers. And that world is very possible with machine learning, with data science, with all the capabilities that artificial intelligence can be able to provide to us. We can do that. So I see a slightly better world that Actriv could create and make global healthcare much, much better than it is today. Our goal is that, one, the cost of the delivery, especially as a contingent talent company, that's where we started. The cost is astronomically high, and we want to reduce that and make that cost relatively close to what it would take for any of those institutions to hire their own employee. And if we could even make it cheaper, then many more healthcare systems could rely on third-party solutions to be able to deliver patient care. Because in healthcare, it's almost impossible not to have reliance on third-party workforce. The fluctuation in census. So today you might have 100 patients, but in less than a couple hours, you have 120 more patients. You can't just go out to the market and hire 5 additional resources. You have to leverage some sort of external pool. But if that external pool is so expensive, then patient care delivery becomes expensive. So our goal is to try to reduce the cost of patient care delivery as much as we can and make this a very exciting thing.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your insights today. It's been very fascinating. Are there any questions from the audience or anybody listening on the live stream right now? Nick.
That was great. Thank you, Allan. When you first started talking to these healthcare facilities, was there any pushback with the technology? Did they welcome you with open arms? Did it depend on how busy they were? That was just a question I had.
That's a very interesting question. We never took the approach of walking in and telling them there's this piece of technology we want you to use. We walked in and we sold an outcome to them. What would the world look like if you were to take this path? It was a much easier sell when we were able to sell the outcome in terms of what would happen to your workforce. If you're able to retain more of your employees, would that be something you'd consider? And it was a yes. If your employees were never working short and if they were never getting burned out, if you didn't get that phone call at midnight on a Saturday, how would your life be? And being able to position the solution made it easy. The outcome made it easy for us to sell the solution. But we knew it was not easy. There were certain clients that created a lot of resistance, and they were not trying something new. And what we did that was very different was we made it easy for them to tell us exactly what they needed, whether they were gonna send a text message, call it in, or send an email. We took it in, or if they wanted to use our portal, we allowed them to tell us what they needed in the best way that they knew how. And it wasn't us imposing and saying, you have to leverage, the only way you can work with us is if only you leverage this piece of technology. And if you don't, we're not going to work with you. Because what we wanted our clients to understand is what the impact of what we did felt like. Because if we were able to sell the impact, selling the technology became much easier.
Thank you.
Bettina?
Thank you. I have a question about the nurse attrition issue. And first of all, thank you for being here and for sharing all the insights that you have. I know, especially post-COVID, there were a lot of elective procedures that had to be canceled, and nurse attrition was one of the issues that contributed to that. And I'm just curious about how you saw that playing out in your part of the world, and also, I guess you mentioned before that in rural areas sometimes it ended up that facilities had to be shut down. What role do you see Actriv playing in such a situation? Are there examples that you have or situations where you've been able to kind of, help prevent some of that and are there barriers to Actriv kind of plugging the gap there? So I'll just summarize the question, right? How did nurse attrition affect you, especially post-COVID, given nurses were quitting their jobs? And then secondly, in cases where rural institutions have to shut down, is there a role for Actriv to kind of plug the gap and help to mitigate that, potentially avoid the closures that we see? Or are there barriers that maybe we're not aware of that prevent Actriv from playing more of an active role there?
Oh, very good question. So 2 questions. One of the questions was on attrition during COVID and what that impact was when it came to like elective surgeries. And the second question is how the role we pretty much play when it comes to the rural, the distribution of workforce in the rural communities. During the time when the elective surgeries were not happening, the nurses that would actually participate in those specialties had to go work in different units. So like if a nurse works in the OR, there wasn't much OR activity, so they were able to float in different specialties, which was good and also bad, because the workload in the OR versus the workload in probably med-surg tele, they're very, very different. And it was not very pleasant to some of them, but it's the world that we had to live in at the time. However, the impact wasn't so much during COVID, it's post-COVID, because now there was a stack of elective surgeries that didn't happen that are happening now. And we've done something very, very interesting in such regards. So, and this was a question that I asked one of our clients, is like, how could we help them increase their revenue? And to answer that question, they told us if they had more patients in the beds, that would help. And so we worked with one of our partners to establish a partnership between a skilled nursing facility and a hospital to provide overflow beds. And how we were able to come into that equation was because most of the patients now there wasn't enough bed space for them to recover in hospitals. So we helped facilitate for them to be in nursing home receiving care. And how this partnership evolved was Actriv was able to come in and provide labor, the labor required to take care of those patients out of the hospital and meet the same ratios, because the ratios for such patients was much, so the number of, the nurse to patient ratio was almost 5-to-1 compared to what the ratio required to take care of the patients in a skilled nursing facility. So we came in and we were able to bridge that gap. And we had people with the expertise to actually take care of those particular patients. So that's one of the things that we were able to do to help reduce the backlog. Because if we are able to overflow more patients out of the hospitals, then the hospitals could take on more patients that they could be able to perform more elective surgeries. And so the effect was not so much felt during COVID as much as it was felt after COVID. And this brought about a need for us to innovate and think outside the box, because it's not something we had ever done. It's not something that a contingent talent management service and a skilled nursing home and a hospital had ever collaborated to work on. But those created new opportunities for us to rethink how have we been doing things and could we do them differently? And this was one of the outcomes where we started doing things a little bit differently and created a scenario where we could overflow those patients and still take care of them with the same level of patient care that they would have received in a hospital. So that's one of the things that we did. But as far as like attrition, most of the nurses never left the workforce. But the ones that joined the workforce during that time that never got a chance to practice and go through the clinicals, they've since left the workforce because they never got a chance to work directly with patients and go through that, because in 2020 that wasn't happening. So when they entered the workforce, they never stuck around. They left. So if you think about something interesting, if you go to banking or accounting, uh, a brand new accountant entry level is not required to perform at the same level as a 30-year-old accountant. But in healthcare, if you join in as an RN, day one, you're supposed to perform at the same level as an RN that has been practicing for 20 years. And if you haven't gone through every step that you're supposed to take, including clinical experience, then chances are you don't want to be part of that workforce. And then you go through the burnout and all the other setbacks. So we saw a lot of new nurses enter the workforce and leave. But that's changing now. And then to answer the second question on how we help bridge the gap in rural areas. So for some communities that were able to reach out to us, we were able to help. Even though our model was so much based on trying to find local resources and try to match them with local facilities, with rural areas, we created innovative solutions that allowed for us to account for where the facility was and the number of resources around that area. So we were able to price differently to attract clinicians to those areas. And it took conversations, because those rural institutions don't have a lot of money. But for them to get the care that they need, there is a question of, could we be able to create financial incentives that drive the nurses to agree to drive about 60 miles from the nearby city to come in. And our system was able to do that very, very well. And looking at the success rate we've had serving rural community, we've actually had over about 100% fill rate, which is unheard of. We actually have better fill rates in rural communities than we do have in cities, because more people, when they travel to those areas, they tend to want to stay there because there's a lot more stability, the earning potential is much higher, and so they just go in. And that's how we've been able to bridge the gap. So we've had to think outside the box on how can we be able to drive the right incentives with pricing. So Actriv dynamically prices every shift, which depending on multiple variables, weather, distance, time of the day. And so we are able to dynamically reprice and make it very attractive for people to get to those buildings. And the numbers have proven that we were right about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I have two questions. Since we're talking about innovation. Hello. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience and what you're doing. Since we're talking about innovation, I have two questions. One is, when you talk about nurses, or when you think about nurses, you think about female nurses. And I mean, as a matter of fact, in the US, it's about a proportion of 10 to 12% male nurses. Are you doing anything to specifically try to attract male people into the workforce? That was question number one. Number two is another problem that's going to face us, or is already facing us, is an aging population in some countries more than in others. But is that also on your strategy to potentially address how to care of older people and how to address the aging problem in the society?
Two questions, very, very important. One, about the gender gaps in healthcare, more females than men, and how what we are doing to attract more males. And the second question was
about the aging population.
The aging population. Awesome. So for what we are trying to do as at Actriv is to create a lifestyle that makes it attractive for any person to say, I want that lifestyle, and that's the way I want to live my life. I want to be able to pick and choose where I work, when I work, how far I get to travel. And we've actually seen, which was very interesting, in 2020 and 2021, we saw a lot of male caregivers. There was a huge spike in the number of male caregivers that we ended up hiring in 2020 and 2021. But most of them were attracted to the fact that, and they pivoted, because to become a caregiver takes about 4 weeks to get your CNA license and you're ready to practice. And they pivoted from other industries that were either shut down or they were not able to access work. And they joined through word of mouth, friends and family telling each other. That we saw an influx of people joining the platform because of the benefits that were being offered. Pretty much like more so the question of freedom, right? Like freedom cuts the gender divide. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. The desire for you to be free and to be in control becomes something very attractive. And we did a lot to try to push that message of freedom and flexibility. It's very, very hard to be able to just go out and target male nurses, and especially if they're already in the workforce, they're already accounted for. But anybody outside the workforce, it's super hard to do that. Because if you think about like the advertising algorithms, if you're able to, if you go on Facebook and you try to run an ad and say, I'm targeting more males than female, the ad won't run. Facebook won't let you run that ad. So it's a very challenging thing for us to do. And so we just took a first principled approach, and we said, let's sell the value of what we do as a platform and the approach we take towards giving you control. And hopefully that becomes a very attractive thing to many. And we were able to attract a lot more male caregivers coming in, and then they start building their career. They start their career progression at the CNA level. They enter the workforce. They start falling in love with care delivery, and then they start taking more classes. And what we've done is encourage more of our employees to actually pursue career growth. And we've engineered that through like the type of content we push towards our employees. So we look at caregivers that have been there, they have stayed within that profession for a very long time, and we push the message for them to advance, because we need more nurses in the workforce, and as many people as we can. So we leverage our own data pool to encourage more of the caregivers to get licenses as RNs. And we've also offered scholarships specifically to males that actually want to take that path from being a caregiver to RN. So we do have a specific fund that was dedicated to male caregivers that want to go to become RNs, even though we do have another general scholarship fund that is just available for anybody. But we have one specifically dedicated towards just encouraging more male nurses to move up. And the second question is about the aging demographic. So like I said earlier on, the median age of nurses in America is 52. So majority of them are retiring and they're leaving the workforce. Some of the things that we are doing, and some of the things that I'm personally doing, is I'm advocating for better patient, I want nurses to be empowered, and I want the organizations to take the burnout crisis seriously, because we don't want to lose anymore. So if you read, I publish a lot on Forbes. So if you Google my name and type on Forbes, I write a lot and try to advocate for our nurses. We want them to be treated better. We want these issues around burnout to be addressed. We want our leaders to be more cognizant of how they they look at the culture in their workforce, because we want to retain as many of the nurses and caregivers that we have in the workforce instead of losing them to other industries that have better pay, better work culture, less burnout. So it's very, very hard. And the only thing that we can do as an industry is to try to change our mindset towards our employees. And how do we create things that make it very attractive for them to love what it is that they do, and they can come back and actually practice at the top of their license. So we do understand that, and there's a need for us to rethink a lot of the things such as legislation. We can't produce enough because we don't have enough nurse educators in the United States to educate the next generation of nurses that want to join the workforce. There's a need for us to reduce the qualification it takes to become a nurse educator so that we can educate more nurses. The qualifications are very high right now. But if we're able to reduce that, we could get more nurse educators. If we paid them better, we could get more nurse educators going in to teach than practice in bedside. But today, you make more money being a bedside nurse than being a nurse educator. So why would you take that path? So there's a need for us to address that part. And then we have to change our immigration laws. We have to get nurses from other countries. It's our reality now. We can't produce them fast enough within our own system. So we have to change the immigration laws to make it easy for us to import nurses from different countries. There's so many countries today where nurses go to school, they get educated, and they don't have jobs. Yet we don't have enough here. So could we create a world where we could open up that pipeline and allow for more international nurses to come in and support our ecosystem? There's also a need for us to rethink the education system. Could we create early start programs that get students to actually graduate with an LPN license? So upon graduation, you go into the workforce and you're able to start earning $50, $60 an hour from day one as a 19-year-old kid or 18-year-old. We can do such things. There is a world like that could exist. There's scholarship programs that we could introduce to inner cities. There are a lot of people that want to better their lives, but the opportunity is not there. I'm a firm believer that intelligence is distributed equally, opportunities are not. So could we bring these opportunities to marginalized areas and educate, bring that education to them, or bring scholarship opportunities to such places and educate more people? Those are the questions we need to come up with answers, and do that very, very fast within the next couple of years, because majority of the people in the workforce today, especially nurses, are retiring. And it's a sad reality, but it's true. And so if we don't rethink all those elements, there will be a huge crisis that even innovation can't solve. So part of solving this problem has to be outside of, even it has to be in conjunction with innovation. We have to change our policies. We have to change mindsets. We have to do so much more. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks for that, Allan. Yes, another question here.
I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on applying this solution for physician shortage and physician burnout? And
can you just say this into the microphone here?
I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on applying the same solution for physician shortage and physician burnout when licensing differs so much from state to state? And my second question was, you said there's a lot of potential for data scientists or machine learning techniques which can be applied to kind of predict, or, so in the world of Gen AI, how can someone who is starting in this field make themselves stand out, and what are the kind of qualities they can kind of develop to make themselves stand out?
Very good questions. Very good one. I want to answer both of them at the same time because they're very exciting. But let's start with the physician question. Yes, this is very applicable in the physician world, but there's also a need for us to, on a legislative level, a pilot does not require a license to be licensed in every state and every country for them to fly a plane over a state. Why should we do the same in healthcare? Could we create federal requirements for you to practice and we move them from state to federal level? That's a very important question that we have to solve within the next couple of years because we don't have enough resources. So we have to make it possible for doctors and other clinicians to be able to work across the borders. We are seeing that in health, in nursing with compact state licenses. However, in the physician world, there's still some work to be done there. So could such a solution work? Yes, it could. There is a lot in the physician world that we have to think about, and there are a lot more requirements that are required. So it's just a question of looking at the problem and trying to fit in, to take a first principle approach and say what could actually work if we try to do the same in the physician world, and we can actually find those answers. But it's very possible for us to do that. And then the next question you asked was, what could you do to stand out as a student in this new era of AI, ML, and things like that? What I would say is generative AI it's a great frontier, but it's only generative. Right? You get onto ChatGPT and you ask a question, and it only answers the question. It doesn't perform any action. To stand out, you have to really start understanding that the future of AI, ML, data science is going to be towards actionable models, niche specific. Google is not going to go out, or Microsoft is not going to go out and try to solve a retail problem or solve a problem for plumbers. They're not going to do that. They're going to take the most general approach. So to stand out, you need to learn how to actually build actionable models that can perform, not just generate answers, but also perform tasks in whatever niche that you choose to be. And then it's not a question of being general. You have to start specializing. With AI, it's going to be, right now we are looking at AI from a very general standpoint, but the evolution of that is going to start being very practical and applicable to very specific industries or very specific businesses. So in healthcare, it's very broad. There's medicine, there's the surgical procedures, there's workforce management. So you have to pick a niche, and then you build your action model around that. Or alternatively, learning how to build large action models, right? An action model that can perform a sequence of activities behind the scenes, perform task A, task B, and task C based on an input that a user has put in, and all the activities are done for you, versus just giving an answer. So that's one of the things that you should be doing right now to be able to stand out, to focus more on that actionable part of the AI, and not just prediction or prescription, but the adoption part of it is super critical.
Steve?
Allan, just kind of like a follow-up question. A follow-up question with regard to the technology aspect that you just elaborated. It seems like there's a shift in the healthcare tech space towards more customer-focused, personalized experience with respect to patient care, patient support, diagnostic tools, affordability, with the help from AI, machine learning, big data analytics, right? And I think a lot of startups are racing to create that deliverable and try to capitalize on the opportunity. And I think doctors, physicians, hospital networks, they're curious, they're interested. At the same time, they're being cautious, which is one of the reasons why it's the growth curve for the tech startups in the healthcare space longer, considerably longer. And how do you reconcile that? If the funding rounds, it takes longer to go through each funding round, and some companies may not be able to sustain in between each phase. And what is your advice to entrepreneurs who are currently experiencing that phase of the growth curve?
Very interesting question, and I'll answer this based on my own experience. We've never raised money. So we build, and we build based on just very simple premises that, one, whatever we build has to be very customer-centric. The desire for you to really understand your customer and personalize to them makes them pay. Because everybody pays for value that they can actually quantify. And so if you build customer-centric tools, user-centric tools that drive so much value, the likelihood of you getting paid is much higher. And what I would recommend, right now it's one of the hardest economic times to raise money. Almost impossible, especially if your company is not generating money. It's very, very hard. But that doesn't mean that it kills innovation. You just have to change the approach. And the one approach that I recommend, let's say you've raised enough money for between a seed round and a Series A, and your money is not, you don't have enough resources to run you to the next round. You have to focus more on how do you actually make money. And sometimes that to be able to get to that point, you have to change the questions that the company is asking. And you have to ask yourself, how do we get to an outcome that a customer is willing to pay for without having to spend money, a lot of money and time building it? So if you think about any problem today, there is a solution that you can actually ask a customer, if I provided you with a rudimentary solution to this problem, could you pay me for it? And there are so many ways. If you are in any problem you're trying to solve for a customer, I firmly believe you shouldn't try to take 2 years to get to revenue or profitability. You have to find ways to be lean. And especially today, with the way the fundraising economy is, you have to find ways to be lean, and you have to also find ways to generate some sort of revenue fast. And that comes with a change in focus. Your entire company should be focused on how do we deliver the highest value possible that we could get paid with the least amount of tools, or with the least technology that we can be able to get services for. And it might not apply in every industry, but I believe there's every space that you get into, there is a tool somewhere that could help you get the job done without spending a lot of money to build it. And that should be your first option before you spend a lot of money building. And if you can do that and validate your thesis over and over and over again, and you can be able to show a little bit of profitability or even break even, that becomes extremely attractive to any investor. The investors will come in because you have been able to demonstrate without these capabilities that I believe we need as a company, we're able to make money. So if we're able to just get enough money to scale this solution that we've already created, then it's a win-win for everybody. So to any entrepreneur right now, focus more on understanding how you can extract more money from your customer by creating the highest value possible. And then the second piece is how could you get the same job done with limited resources or technology that's readily available off the shelf. And the third piece is today, more than ever, it's easier to build a company with few people doing a lot of work with the AI technology that is readily available to us. If you leverage, just let's take a very simple example, such as ChatGPT. You can run a marketing department with one person that is probably the least qualified person to do that. If they can write the right prompts on ChatGPT and use a tool like Canva and a bunch of other software, and you actually have a very good marketing department. And so it's not a question of having to have a lot of money to build a product. It's a question of how creative can you be, how scrappy can you be, and how much outside the box thinking could you be as a team. And just take the approach that we don't have to have so much to get so much done. We can get a lot done with very limited resources. And if you have that mindset, you're going to have very limited dilution in the future. Because any round that you do as a founder, it's a dilution to your equity. Not that it's a bad thing, but you could be able to preserve the value of your company for a very long time if you change the way you approach building the company itself. I hope I've answered that question.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay, any final questions? No? All right, well, Allan, thank you so much for your insights today. It was very informative, and we really appreciate you coming all the way out here and sharing your thoughts with everybody today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And for those of you that are in data science or AI or the computer science field, we are looking for incredibly talented people to join our mission. We are doing some really cool things that are pushing the world of healthcare forward, and we are looking for great partners, people that want to change the world and make it better, build their own legacy. We want to allow you to do that. So with open arms, if you are looking and if you would like to join a mission-driven organization, let me know. I'm here.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.